Allegations of corruption in Kenya, with money and medical supplies for the fight against coronavirus missing, President Uhuru Kenyatta calls for an investigation.
A less expensive fertilizer. President Muhammadu Buhari lowers the cost of fertilizer by 500 naira per bag. Hello, thanks for tuning in to the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent Makori with a new look from the Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent Makori. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, the Voice of America has reduced staffing at VOA headquarters in Washington, D.C. So as you see, our broadcast looks a little different for now. But we do appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Channels Television in Lagos brings you that story.
We start from the agriculture sector. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the reduction of the cost of fertilizers from 5,500 naira to 5,000 naira per bag. Let's take a look at its effect for farmers. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, has more.
When the COVID-19 pandemic hit Nigeria, the Buhari administration's biggest fear was food security, and that informed the reopening of the country in phases. The administration believes that the food crisis was averted because of the government's self-sufficiency plans, such as extending access to credit and building feeder roads. The National Food Security Council has one mandate: ensure food security in the country. That security is being threatened by natural disasters in recent times.
Yes, many people have been displaced from their homes. A lot of infrastructure has been lost. A lot of food crop has been destroyed. Animals have died. Fishing grounds have been destroyed. But there is already ongoing effort by state emergency management agencies, national emergency management agencies, the Ministry of Humanitarian Resources, Ministry of Agriculture, the Presidency, to ensure that we respond in time and we support all those who have been affected.
The last time the council met, it said the cost of food was going down. This statement got a lot of backlash as many Nigerians disagreed with the assertion. The Jigawa State Governor explains the statement.
You will not see it immediately. Living in the cities, living in Abuja, you will not see the price drop immediately because there is always transition between drop it in the price and counter and on the counter price dropping. Prices started dropping at the local markets. It has to be bought, it has to be transported. Those that have existing stock will not lose money and drop the price for you. They will wait until they exhaust the stock or there is a lot of this produce in the market. Then they will be forced to drop the prices.
Despite natural disasters and bulk buying of food items, the National Food Security Council is confident the country will not experience a food crisis, thanks to the government's self-sufficiency policies and the insistence of the Buhari administration that there will be no more importation of fertilizer into the country. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Let's get more on this discussion from agricultural consultant Wale Oyekoya, who joins us live in the studio. You're welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me.
Right, so we hear that the presidency has slashed the price of fertilizer from 5,500 per bag to about 5,000 naira. What's your take on this? What impact do you think it will make?
Well, to me, as a farmer, it's not something that need to be rejoiced all about, because if you remember, because of the pandemic that is happening all over the world, the rest of the world are giving much cushioning effects to all their farmers, especially when it comes to palliatives. I see no reason why the government cannot slash the price to half price, like 2,500, if you really mean well for the farmers and if you really mean well for the food sufficiency of the country. Because you have to understand that farmers have gone through a whole lot, especially during the pandemic, not to talk of the climate change, not to talk of the flood that is really ravaging the whole country right now. And if you go to the north, especially northeast and northwest, you see that most of these farmers, especially that grows rice and maize, they have nothing to really bring to the table because of the flood and because of the climate change. So reducing the price of fertilizer from 5,500 to 5,000, to me, it doesn't really make sense. Let me put it that way, because right now farmers are really battling with the price of the feed, which is extremely high, especially the poultry farmers. And at the same time, even the human consumption, because maize is the main component of feed for poultry and any animal productions in the country. And human beings are even competing with the animals also, because that's what we use for mostly for the breakfast, for the cereal, for the cornflakes and all kinds of stuff like that. So I believe the federal government should do more if truly they really mean well to really bring food sufficiency to the country.
Well, so you did say that slashing the price of fertilizer, the amount it has been slashed to is not enough. That the government should do more. But we do know that compounding the problem of the farmers is, as you have mentioned, flooding, and of course the lockdown from the coronavirus. What do you think should be done to avert flooding? Because it's really a major problem. It's something that once the waters come, there's nothing the farmers can do about it. So what do you think should be done to avert flooding in the first place? You can't stop the rain, but you can actually mitigate the effects of flooding.
Well, we've been going through this every year in, year out, and I've been expecting the federal government, especially the Minister of Environment, to really find out what really causes some of this flooding from the banks of the rivers, especially those in the river line. And you have to understand that apart from the people blocking the drainage, the canals, what about the government? We already knew that there already been a prediction by the NEMET that we are going to be faced with a lot of flood. But do we really prepared? Because farmers are really helpless, because you cannot be fighting most of these herdsmen not to eat your crops, and at the same time try to fight the weather, that, the rain is coming, how can I avoid this? So the government really need to do more in order to be able to avoid some of these crises that we'll be facing every year. The only thing we could do is you see now we drainage, the gutters, so that most of this water will be able to flow back to the river instead of the rivers coming into the farmland. And I believe with what happened this year, maybe hopefully next year, much will be done to be averted.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Some poor women who have recently given birth in the Democratic Republic of Congo face a stark choice: pay their medical bills or stay in detention with their babies in public health facilities. One baby was kept for a month. Anastasia Tudishe has more from a maternal health center in Kinshasa.
Mama Maziba Maternity Referral Health Center is a public health facility serving some of Kinshasa's poorest residents. Nearly 80 babies a month are born in the maternity center here. But when mothers cannot pay their bills, they are not allowed to leave. 21-year-old Beloni Ngoi gave birth to her first child, Erika, during the coronavirus confinement.
They told us it would be a boy, so we did put aside the $35 needed. Then they told us they would do a C-section, so there were additional fees.
Beloni's husband installs cable television, but the confinement has left him without work, and the family is struggling to gather the $250 needed for the hospital bill. Until they pay, Beloni and baby Erika are not going home. Micheline Ileko, too, is stuck at the hospital.
When I arrived to give birth, I had nothing. They eventually agreed to take care of me, but I had to discuss it a lot. I really had to beg.
Micheline gave birth to her third child, Marveline, and now cannot pay the $50 bill. She says she understands why she and other mothers are not allowed to leave.
They check up on us. That is the way of the world. Money fixes everything.
Dr. Eric Messina is director of the health center.
Go back home? How, my dear? There are people who have done the work. Some drugs that have been used, medicines we have used, many things we have used. And who is going to pay for that if we let them go?
C'est une situation qu'on a toujours déplorée.
This is a blatant human rights violation. Detaining an individual for default of payment, especially a woman, is violating the law.
C'est violer les droits.
Attorney Elodie Ntimire Muzigirwa is a patients' rights advocate who says Congolese authorities must do more to help new mothers. Dr. Messina says he's sympathetic to the economic situation, but for women who cannot afford to give birth, it is an issue of family planning.
There is no way one can stop these ladies from giving birth. Simply impossible. They need guidance. However, we advise and encourage them to use birth control. For the poorest, we provide the birth control. It is not mandatory. It is their life after all.
Attorney Elodie Muzigirwa says Congo's health ministry recognizes the problem and the work she's doing with the United Nations to boost patients' rights. It is not about changing some laws, but more about rebuilding Congolese healthcare, she says, as new mothers stuck in hospitals are symptoms of a sick system. Anastasie Tudiesh for VOA News, Kinshasa.
The UN World Food Programme has warned that worsening violence by militants linked to Islamic State in northern Mozambique is causing thousands of people to go hungry as they flee their homes and abandon their farms.
Tinashe Munduagona knows what it means to be hungry. She says she usually tricks her children to forget about not having food by making them watch television.
The owner of the house where we are staying has a television, so to trick the stomachs of my children, they watch TV to distract them from hunger. When they watch, they forget their hunger. They have gotten used to it. There is no other way. We left many things behind. Here, we depend on people's kindness.
Munduagona is a victim of the worsening violence in northern Mozambique, which forced her and her children to abandon their home and flee.
We tried to sleep while people were screaming at the house next door. I couldn't even walk. I was so weak. That's when I noticed that the neighbor's house was burning. Our house was built from bamboo without clay on the walls, and we managed to tear a hole in the wall and escape.
A World Food Programme statement says over 300,000 people have fled Cabo Delgado to neighboring provinces, in many cases crossing the northern border into Tanzania, which is out of reach of humanitarian assistance.
At this moment, we have 310,000 people around the provinces of Cabo Delgado, Nampula, and Niassa, and also UNHCR has reported that around 1,000 refugees has crossed the Rovuma into Tanzania.
The United Nations body also warns that the migration caused by the violence risks accelerating the spread of coronavirus. The impoverished southern African nation has nearly 7,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases with about 44 deaths.
It's time for a short break. As we go, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us on youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come on the program. Having endured extreme adversity and trauma, Congolese rights activist Francois Sabuni Chikunda is this year's Africa Regional winner for the UNHCR Nansen Refugee Award.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. Organizations such as the World Bank, IMF, and the Jack Ma Foundation have contributed aid worth more than $2 billion to aid Kenya's fight against COVID-19. But much of the money and donated medical supplies have gone missing, prompting President Uhuru Kenyatta to order an investigation into who might have taken it all. Lenny Ruvaga reports from Nairobi.
A government watchdog group is accusing officials in the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency of embezzling some $2 billion in aid meant to help Kenya combat COVID-19.
These are some of the PPE kits she supplied.
Dr. Godwins Agutu, CEO of the Network Action Against Corruption, an organization sanctioned by the government to promote fiscal accountability, raised the accusations against KEMSA, a government agency mandated to supply medical equipment and medicine to the Ministry of Health. The network says officials in KEMSA ran two schemes. In one, the organization paid for personal protective equipment, or PPEs, that was actually donated by the Jack Ma Foundation. The money then went to phony companies controlled by the KEMSA officials. In the other scheme, KEMSA officials contracted with fictitious shell companies to supply protective equipment. No equipment was supplied, but the companies got paid anyway. Speaking to VOA, Dr. Agutu said the officials also planned to resell PPEs on the black market.
The PPE kits consist of a number of items. But you realize even these particular people, what they used to do, the PPE kits which they stole from Jack Ma's donation, they would break it down. So they have the coveralls separately, they have the boots separately, they have the supplied separately. So you can imagine how much were they intending to make out of that?
Kenya's President Kenyatta has ordered a forensic audit into the use of both state and donor funds meant to be used to combat COVID-19.
No persons found to be prima facie culpable as a result of those ongoing investigations should be brought to book.
A civil society group says mismanagement of the money and protective gear is affecting Kenya's COVID preparedness and response.
As a country, we'll have to deal with paying the public debt. We'll have to deal with that impact on service delivery. We've seen that even as we speak now, the level of preparedness for COVID is still not there yet. The isolation units that were meant to be put up, are not ready. We've seen doctors complaining about lack of PPEs. So it would seem that we got these resources, but we have not used them for the right reason, and yet we will continuously pay for them.
According to the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, the shortage of protective supplies coupled with the low quality of those made available is having far-reaching effects.
The doctors and the workers working in the outpatient department should be given N95 each and every day they see patients. Due to lack of enough and quality PPEs has led to more than almost 1,000 healthcare workers being infected with the coronavirus.
The country's Senate and investigative agencies have been tasked with unraveling the allegations of funds misappropriation. Meanwhile, Kenya's health ministry has recorded more than 36,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Nairobi, Kenya.
Rights activist in Congo, Francois Sabuni Chikunda, has endured extreme adversity and trauma to emerge as this year's regional winner for Africa of the UNHCR Nansen Refugee Award.
Activist Sabuni Francois Chikunda means many things to many people. Ever since she arrived at Uganda's Nakivale refugee settlement 3 years ago, she has touched many lives. To the children at the reception center, the 49-year-old is a dedicated English teacher. To the women who meet every day to make handicraft and discuss matters of concern at the Kabazana Women's Center, she is the center's founder and chairperson. And to the hundreds of women in the settlement who have survived sexual and gender-based violence, she's a counselor and confidant.
My name is Sabuni Francoise Chikunda. I'm a refugee myself, but also help my fellow refugee women to improve their life.
Chikunda has turned her traumatic past into a source of strength to help others. During the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, she survived a brutal attack in which her husband and children were killed. She subsequently endured violence, torture and rape at the hands of armed militiamen in a native Democratic Republic of the Congo, who kidnapped her and held her as a slave for years.
I went through a lot of things. A lot of things. I lost my home, I lost my family, my job, everything.
For her tireless activism, Chikunda has been chosen as the regional winner for Africa for UNHCR's Nansen Refugee Award, a prestigious annual prize that honors those who have gone to extraordinary lengths to support forcibly displaced or stateless people.
It feels so nice teaching women and girls in these situations, because when we are busy, we are not idle. It makes our mind to focus on the future.
The prize for the global laureates will be presented by UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, in a virtual ceremony on October the 5th.
I miss my children.
Officials in Saudi Arabia are celebrating the opening of the world's largest hospital for camels. It took tens of millions of dollars to build the facility that provides health care from basic to radiology. And as VOA's Rasha Rabasadi reports, the new facility saves some camel owners days of travel.
Camel owners in Saudi Arabia are thankful for the brand new Salam Veterinary Hospital.
The camel hospital is a blessing from God. We suffered not having one here and had to travel for hours, but Salam is providing really good services. It is very big, and right now we have few problems because it's so close to us.
This hospital opened in Buraida in July. The capital city of the north-central region of Qasim, Buraida is home to the world's largest camel market. Before Salam Veterinary, camel trader Abdulaziz Al-Saloom says he used to travel almost 700 kilometers for a vet to see his animals. Camel owner Omar Al-Katani is pleased with the quality of care at this new facility.
Thank God, we are relieved. We found enough medication of different kinds for our camels here. I found medicine for my camels here I could not find anywhere else.
Staff here also perform x-rays and CAT scans. CEO Fahad Al-Fahad says the project is the result of a $36.5 million investment.
It happened because of the importance of the camel, precious to us and to our grandfathers, and that didn't get its share of developments in veterinary medicine and research. Our goal is to raise awareness about this creature's importance to us.
Salam Veterinary Hospital spans 70,000 square meters and can reportedly house as many as 4,000 camels at a time. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington.
Well, that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.